Everyone saw him leave her at the altar. No one expected what her brother did. That November afternoon, in the oldest church in town, the music suddenly stopped. Isabella held her bouquet of white gardenias with trembling fingers, the same one Santiago had chosen because, according to him, it represented secret love. Now that detail seemed like a cruel irony. She looked down the aisle, hoping to see that arrogant smile that had won her over 2 years ago appear. But he never appeared. The minutes dragged on. First, there were nervous murmurs, then pitying glances. Donna Carmen, the longtime neighbor, whispered something to her husband while shaking her head. The young men surreptitiously took out their phones, some already posting on social media. Isabella could feel her humiliation going viral in real time. Father Martin cleared his throat uncomfortably. The organist stopped playing. A baby cried in the background. And she remained standing there, in her ivory silk dress that had taken 6 months to pay for, feeling like a forgotten mannequin in a shop window. Hello. Before I continue with this story that's about to break your heart, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening to me from today? I love imagining what city, what corner, you're in while I tell you about Isabella. Now, let's get to what happened next. Isabella Suarez was 31 years old and an interior designer. She had built her small studio from scratch, working 16 hours a day to prove that a single woman could succeed in a world of sexist architects. She was intelligent, creative, and noble, but also stubborn. She had believed in love with the naivete of someone who had grown up without a father, and with a mother who cleaned other people's houses to pay for her college tuition. Her relationship with Santiago Bennett had been a modern-day fairy tale turned nightmare. He was the eldest son of a cold, powerful business family, owners of the largest business group in the region. Santiago was the brilliant one, the rebel, the one who broke family rules by dating models and actresses. When he began courting Isabella, everyone thought it was just another fling, but it lasted 2 years. 2 years of dinners in elegant restaurants where Isabella felt out of place, of vacations to places she would never have been to, of expensive gifts that made her feel bought. Santiago told her he loved her, but there was always something calculated in his gestures, something she preferred not to see. What Isabella didn't know was that marrying her wasn't love, it was revenge. Santiago had discovered that her father had had an affair years earlier with a working-class woman, and had decided to humiliate him by publicly marrying someone he considered inferior. The plan was to abandon her at the altar to show her father that he could play dirty too. But in the front row, his brother Daniel Bennett watched everything silently. Daniel, 2 years younger than Santiago, had always been the invisible son. While Santiago dazzled at parties and appeared in society magazines, Daniel quietly built the family's technological empire. He was introverted, meticulous, and measured in his gestures. He had never been involved in a scandal, never made a public statement, never done anything that drew attention. But when he saw Isabella crying, her mascara running, and shaking like a leaf, something broke inside him. He slowly rose from his seat. The entire church followed him with their eyes. His parents looked at him in alarm. Daniel walked with a firm stride toward the altar. His gray suit perfectly ironed, and those green eyes that always seemed to hold secrets. He took Isabella's hand. She looked at him in confusion, tears falling onto her ruined makeup. And then, before 200 astonished people, Daniel Bennett said in a clear and firm voice, "I'm not going to let this woman stay alone for a second longer. If anyone here wants to get married today, it's me." The silence that followed was so profound that the church clock could be heard ticking. Camera phones continued to record. The audience was petrified. Mrs. Bennett fainted in her seat. Isabella looked at him blankly. Daniel's eyes were filled with tears, but his voice didn't tremble. "It's not pity," he whispered. "It's love. It's always been love." But Isabella ran away. She ran in her wedding dress through the cobblestone streets of the historic center, her heels breaking, her veil catching on the trees. People watched her from their windows, some following her on their phones. She ran until she reached her apartment, a second-floor apartment she had lovingly decorated to begin her new life. Her mother, Clara, was waiting for her at the door. Clara was 58 years old, with rough hands from overwork and a permanent sadness in her eyes, since Isabella's father abandoned them when she was 12. "My girl," he said, hugging her. "Let's get out of here. Let's go far away. You can't stand any more humiliation." But Isabella saw something different when she remembered Daniel's eyes. It wasn't pity, it was pain. A pain she didn't understand yet, but that she somehow recognized. That same night, Daniel showed up at their door. He was carrying a bag of Chinese food and a bottle of cheap wine, not the luxuries the Bennetts were used to. "I can explain everything to you," he said, "but only if you give me a chance." Isabella was in her pajamas, her hair tied back in a messy bun, and her eyes swollen from crying. For the first time in 2 years, she felt like herself. Daniel explained that he had been in love with her since the first time Santiago took her to dinner at the family home. It had been an awkward dinner where Isabella had barely spoken, intimidated by the luxury and everyone's coldness, but he had noticed how she observed every detail of the decor, how her eyes lit up when she saw something beautiful, how she had tenderly stroked the head of the family's old golden retriever. For 2 years, Daniel had been a silent spectator to his brother's romance. He had watched Isabella design their future home with excitement, listened to her plans for children, and observed how Santiago treated her more like a trophy than a companion. And with each passing day, Daniel fell more hopelessly in love with this woman his brother couldn't appreciate. 3 weeks before the wedding, Daniel had accidentally found Santiago's messages with his friends. Messages where he mocked Isabella, where he described his plan to leave her at the altar, where he bet on how long it would take her to crawl back. But what devastated him most was finding a letter his mother had written before she died 5 years earlier. A letter addressed to him, which had been forgotten among the papers on his father's desk. In it, his mother said, "Daniel, my son, you were always the most sensitive of my children. Beware of the brother who shines, because he is not always the one who shines. Your heart is your best guide. Don't let fear stop you from loving." It took Isabella 3 hours to process it all. Then she asked why he'd never said anything. "Because she was my brother's wife," Daniel replied. "Because I thought you were happy. Because I thought I had no right. And now I think we both deserve a chance at true happiness." But Isabella needed time. She'd been publicly humiliated. She'd lost confidence in her own judgment. She'd invested 2 years of her life in a lie. How could she trust another man from that same family? How could she know if Daniel was telling the truth or if this was just another cruel game? He asked him to leave. Daniel nodded, but before leaving, he left something on the table. A white handkerchief embroidered with his deceased mother's initials. It was hers, he told her. She always carried it when she was scared. "Maybe it'll give you courage too." 3 terrible weeks passed. Isabella returned to work, but clients looked at her with pity or morbid curiosity. She changed her phone number after receiving hundreds of messages from strangers who had seen the viral video of her humiliation. She threw her wedding dress in the trash, along with all the photos of Santiago, but he kept the handkerchief. Clara insisted they move to another city, start over, away from everyone's attention, but Isabella refused. She wasn't going to run away, not again. During those weeks, Daniel didn't contact her even once, but he did send flowers to her studio every Monday. A small bouquet of wildflowers, no card, no message. Isabella knew they were from him because Santiago always sent expensive red roses, and Daniel had chosen simple, soft-colored flowers, like the ones that grew in his grandmother's garden. One day, Isabella found an interview online that Daniel had given to a financial newspaper. It was about the tech company's expansion, but the journalist asked him about the family scandal. Daniel replied, "My brother made his decisions, I made mine. I don't regret having stood up for an extraordinary woman who deserved dignity, not humiliation. And if I could do it over again, I would do it 1,000 times over." That night, Isabella called him. They met in a small cafe, far from the center, where no one knew them. Daniel arrived nervous, with dark circles under his eyes that betrayed sleepless nights. Isabella had the handkerchief in her purse. "Why the flowers?" he asked. "Because I wanted you to know that I was still here, but respecting your time." "Why not roses like Santiago?" Daniel smiled for the first time in weeks. "Because you're not a woman of expensive luxuries, you're a woman of simple beauty. You like authentic things, like flowers that grow without anyone caring for them, but are still beautiful." Isabella felt something move in her chest, something that had been dormant for a long time. They began meeting once a week, always in different places, always discreet. Daniel showed her a part of the city she didn't know. Used bookstores, historic cafes, forgotten parks. They talked for hours. He told her about his work, his technological projects, his dream of creating something that would improve people's lives. She told him about her designs, her childhood without a father, her fears. Daniel was the complete opposite of James. Where James talked, Daniel listened. Where James boasted, Daniel questioned. Where James controlled, Daniel waited. A month after they began their encounters, Daniel proposed something unexpected. "I want to show you something. Do you trust me?" He took her to his home, a modern building on the outskirts of the city that he had designed himself. It was elegant but warm, filled with books and plants, with huge windows that let in natural light. And then he showed her a room on the second floor that Isabella had never seen. It was a library, but not just any library. Framed on the walls were all the designs Isabella had created over the past 2 years. Designs she had shown to Santiago, designs she had published in her portfolio, designs she had made for clients. Daniel had collected them all, printed them in high-quality prints, and framed them as works of art. Isabella was speechless. There were more than 50 designs, 2 full years of her work, displayed with the care and respect that an artist's work deserves. "When did you do this?" he asked, his voice breaking. "For the past 18 months, every time Santiago showed me something of yours with disdain, I kept it. Every time he said he didn't understand why you wasted time drawing houses, I printed out your plans and studied them for hours. But what moved her most was discovering an empty space on the main wall, and that," he pointed out, "it's for the future, for the designs you'll create when you feel free to dream again." That night, Isabella cried until she ran out of tears. But for the first time in months, it wasn't sadness. It was relief. It was hope. It was the feeling of being seen, truly seen, by someone who valued her. But the road was not going to be easy. A week later, Santiago showed up at Isabella's studio. He arrived with expensive flowers, rehearsed apologies, and promises of change. He'd seen photos of her with Daniel on social media and came to take back what was his. "It was a mistake," he told her. "A moment of panic. I'll marry you tomorrow if you want." Isabella looked at him with a calmness that surprised even herself. "Santiago, you never loved me. I was just a way to hurt your family." "Who told you that lie, my brother? He was always jealous of me. You told me so. In every gesture, in every word, in every moment, you made me feel like I wasn't enough for you." Santiago changed tactics. He became aggressive. "Do you think Daniel is different? Do you think a Bennett is going to truly love a woman like you? He's using you just like me, but he's smarter." For a moment, Isabella hesitated. What if he was right? What if she was making the same mistake again? She didn't sleep that night. The next day, she canceled her appointment with Daniel. She didn't answer his calls. The fear had returned. Clara, her mother, found her crying in the kitchen. "Mommy, what if I'm wrong again? What if Daniel is just like Santiago?" Clara sat down next to him. For the first time in years, she spoke about her own past. "Isabella, I was a coward once, too. Your dad wasn't bad. He was just ... lost. He was afraid of being a father, afraid of the responsibility. I was 22 and pregnant. Instead of fighting for him, instead of giving him time to grow, I pushed him until he ran away." Isabella had never heard this version of the story. "For years, I hated him for abandoning us. But the truth is, I abandoned him too. I abandoned the possibility that people can change, that love can overcome fear. Why are you telling me this now? Because I see the way that boy Daniel looks at you. And it's not like Santiago looked at you. Santiago looked at you as if you were a prize he'd won. Daniel looks at you as if you were a gift he doesn't think he deserves." 2 days later, Isabella mustered up the courage to look for Daniel. She found him in his office, working late as usual. He had deeper dark circles under his eyes and had lost weight. When he saw her walk in, he stood up immediately. "Isabella, are you okay? You weren't answering." "Santiago came to see me." Daniel tensed, but said nothing. "He told me that you were using me just like he was, and what do you think?" Isabella walked toward him. She took his hands, they were shaking. "I think that for the first time in my life, someone loves me unconditionally. I think I'm scared, but true love is scary because it's real." Daniel closed his eyes in relief. "Isabella, she kissed him. It was her first real kiss, a chosen kiss, not a 1-1. It was gentle, timid at first, then desperate. It was the kiss of 2 people who had waited too long to be happy, but the problems were far from over. Daniel's parents invited him to a family meeting. The pressure was immense. The scandal had damaged the company's image, shareholders were nervous, and the press was following them everywhere. "Either you break up with that woman or you lose your place in the company," his father told him. Daniel looked at them calmly. "Then, I lose my place in the company." "Daniel, don't be ridiculous. It's just a whim, Dad," he interrupted. "I built the tech division from scratch. I generated 60% of last year's profits. If you fire me for being in love, you'll lose more than a child. You'll lose your company." It was the first time Daniel had confronted his family. It was the first time he had set boundaries. His parents backed down, but they didn't give up. A week later, Isabella received a visit from Mrs. Bennet, an elegant, cold woman, accustomed to getting what she wanted. "Miss Suarez, let's face it, you and my son live in different worlds. With all due respect, ma'am, I'm no longer the naive woman you met 2 years ago. My son is confused. He feels guilty about what Santiago did and thinks he can fix it by marrying you. Your son loves me, and I love him." Mrs. Bennet placed a blank check on the table. "Fill in the amount you want. Disappear from our lives." Isabella looked at the check. For a moment, she thought about all the things she could do with that money. She could move to another city, start over, give her mother a better life. Then, he tore the check into pieces. "Ma'am, there are some things you can't buy. Respect is one of them." But the social pressure was overwhelming. Clients began canceling projects. Suppliers demanded advance payments. Neighbors pointed her out on the street. Isabella began to understand the price of loving a Bennet. One night, after losing her most important client, Isabella called Daniel crying. "I can't take it anymore. Maybe your mother is right. Maybe we're from very different worlds." Daniel arrived at her apartment in 20 minutes. He found her packing. "Are you leaving?" "Mommy was right from the start. I have to get out of here. This is too much for me." Daniel sat on the bed next to the suitcases. "Okay," he said, "if that's what you need, fine, but let me come with you." Isabella stopped. "That? I'm going with you. Wherever we can start over somewhere else. Just the two of us together." "Daniel, you can't leave your life, your company." "Isabella, you are my life. The company will continue to exist without me, but I won't continue to exist without you." That night, Isabella made the bravest decision of her life. She wasn't going to leave, she was going to stay and fight for her love. The next day, she showed up at the studio with a determination she'd never had before. She called all the clients she'd lost and offered them 50% discounts. She created a new website, registered on digital platforms, and began looking for clients outside the city. Daniel, for his part, officially resigned from the family business and created his own tech startup. He called it Linea Directa, a platform to connect independent designers with clients throughout the region. The first profile uploaded to the platform was Isabella says within 3 months. She had more work than she could handle. Clients from neighboring cities had seen her work online and wanted to hire her. For the first time in her life, Isabella was truly financially independent. But the most important moment in its history came in the most unexpected way. Isabella had returned to her mother's house to help her clean out the attic. Among old boxers and forgotten mementos, she found a shoebox she'd never seen before. Inside were photos from his childhood, letters from school, and at the bottom, wrapped in yellowish tissue paper, an envelope with his name written in his father's shaky handwriting. Isabella sat on the dusty floor and opened the letter with trembling hands. "My dear Isabella, if you're reading this, it means you're already a woman. I hope you're strong, stronger than I was. I left because I was a coward. I was 24 years old and didn't know how to be a father, how to support a family, how to be the man you and your mother deserved. I thought you'd be better off without me. All these years, I've followed you from afar. I know you graduated with honors. I know you started your own business. I know you're the bravest and most beautiful woman in the world. If you ever have to make a difficult decision about love, remember this. I wasn't brave, and I lost the most beautiful thing I had. You are. Don't make my mistake. I'm sorry I wasn't the father you deserved, but you are going to be the extraordinary woman you were always destined to be. With eternal love, Dad." Isabella cried like she hadn't cried in years. She cried for the father she never knew, for the mother who had carried everything alone, for the years of unanswered questions, but she also cried with relief, because she finally understood that some wounds heal when one finds the strength to forgive. That same night, he showed the letter to Daniel. He read it silently, then hugged her without saying anything. "Your dad was right," he whispered. "You're the bravest woman I know, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you deserve." Isabella felt something complete inside her. For the first time in 31 years, she felt whole. A week later, Daniel arrived home with something hidden in his hands. It wasn't a traditional ring box. It was a small, carved wooden object. "I made it," he said nervously. "I'm not very good at crafts, but I wanted it to be special." It was a cherry wood ring, simple but perfectly polished. Inside was a phrase engraved in tiny letters. "Your courage saved me. Isabella Suarez," he said. Kneeling down, "I'm not going to promise you an easy life, because you know my family is complicated and the world will judge us. But I promise you that you will be loved, respected, and valued every day of your life. I promise you that we will build something beautiful together, brick by brick, like you design houses. Will you marry me?" Isabella looked at the wooden ring. Then she looked into Daniel's green eyes, filled with tears and hope. "Yes," he said, "but on one condition. Whichever you want. The ceremony will be in Mom's garden. No frills, no press, no drama. Just the people who truly love us." Daniel smiled. "I wouldn't have wanted it any other way." The wedding was 3 months later, in Clara's backyard. There were 30 guests, true friends, co-workers, neighbors. Isabella wore a simple ivory dress she'd chosen herself, without pressure or outside opinions. Daniel arrived on time, wearing a navy blue suit and a smile that never left his face throughout the ceremony. Clara walked Isabella to the makeshift altar. Before handing her over, she whispered, "Your dad would have been proud." Santiago didn't show up. Neither did Daniel's parents. But the people who mattered were there. The friends who had been there through thick and thin. The clients who had become family. The neighbors who had watched Isabella grow up. After exchanging vows they had written themselves, they planted a small cherry tree together in a corner of the garden. It was the third symbolic object in their story, the handkerchief that had represented comfort, the ring that represented commitment, and now the tree that represented growth. In 10 years, Daniel told him, "This tree will provide shade for our children to play in." Isabella looked at him in surprise. "Our children? If you want, as many as you want." For the first time since they met, Isabella felt free to dream about the future without fear. 5 years later, the cherry tree had grown large enough to shade a garden table where Isabella worked on her designs while keeping an eye on her 3-year-old daughter, Emma, who was playing with wooden blocks Daniel had carved for her. Daniel had sold his startup to an international company and was now dedicated to creating technology for small entrepreneurs. Isabella had her own design studio with 4 employees and clients in 3 countries. Santiago had married a millionaire heiress and lived in Europe. He rarely returned to the country, and when he did, he avoided any contact with his brother. It had taken Daniel's parents 3 years to accept the relationship, but Emma's arrival had softened their hearts. They now visited regularly, and Mrs. Bennett had grown to genuinely respect Isabella. Clara lived in a small house that Isabella and Daniel had bought for her 2 blocks from their house. She took care of Emma while they worked, and for the first time in decades, she had the financial security she'd always dreamed of. One afternoon, while Isabella was designing a house for a young newlywed couple, Emma approached with one of her wooden blocks. "Mommy, why does Dad make toy houses and you make real houses?" Isabella carried her on her lap because Dad likes to create little things with lots of love, and Mommy likes to create big things with lots of love. "Me too. You'll create whatever you want, my love, but always with lots of love." Emma smiled and returned to her games. Isabella looked out the window at the cherry tree she and Daniel had planted 5 years ago. Its leaves were gently moving in the evening breeze. In the garden, Daniel would come home from work, and Emma would run to hug him, shouting, "Daddy," with the pure joy of a child who had never known a father's absence. Isabella touched the wooden ring she'd never taken off. The inscription had worn a little over the years, but she knew every letter by heart. "Your courage saved me." And she understood that he had saved her too. Not from Santiago, not from humiliation, not from poverty. He had saved her from the fear of being loved exactly as she was. That night, after putting Emma to bed, Isabella and Daniel sat in the garden under her cherry tree. He was carving a small wooden airplane for his daughter, while she reviewed the plans for her next project. "Do you know what day it is today?" Daniel asked. Isabella did the mental calculations. 5 years since Santiago stood me up at church. "Do you regret anything?" Isabella thought about all the journey she'd taken, the tears, the fears, the sleepless nights, the social pressure, the prejudices. But she also thought about the mornings waking up next to the man who loved her, about Emma laughing as she played, about Clara's happy and peaceful life, about her thriving business, about the family they'd built brick by brick. "I only regret one thing," he told her. Daniel looked at her worriedly. "About what, Dad?" "It took me so long to realize that I deserved to be loved like this." Daniel put his carving aside and hugged her. "You came at the perfect time. When we were both ready." Isabella snuggled up against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, that sound that had become her safest place in the world. "Daniel, do you think Santiago ever regretted it?" Daniel thought for a moment. "I think Santiago got exactly what he wanted, a life without real commitments. But he'll never have what we have." "And what do we have?" "Peace," he replied, without hesitation. "Love that doesn't hurt. Love that doesn't apologize for existing." Isabella closed her eyes. He was right. For the first time in her life, she loved without fear and was loved unconditionally. A year later, Isabella received an unexpected call. It was from a journalist who wanted to do a story on second chances at love. "Mrs. Bennet," he said, "your story has become very well known. What would you say to women who have experienced similar public humiliations?" Isabella thought about all the letters she'd received over the years. Women who'd contacted her, telling her their own stories of abandonment, betrayal, and fear of loving again. That pain isn't permanent, but the decisions we make from pain can be that it's okay to be afraid, but it's not okay to let fear make our decisions for us. And what about forgiveness? Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means choosing to no longer carry the weight of bitterness. I forgave Santiago, not for him, but for myself, so I could love Daniel without the hurts of the past. Any advice for women who doubt whether a man really loves them? Isabella looked out the window. Daniel was in the garden with Emma, teaching her how to plant flowers. His 4-year-old daughter listened attentively to each instruction, with the seriousness of someone who considers everything her father teaches her important. Let them observe how he treats them when he doesn't need anything from them, how he looks at them when they're in their pajamas and disheveled, how he reacts when they say no, how he talks about them when they're not around. True love is seen in the everyday details, not in grand gestures. What if they have lost hope? Isabella touched her wooden ring, already worn but still beautiful after so many years. That hope isn't something you find, it's something you choose. I chose to believe I deserved true love even when all the evidence told me otherwise. And that choice changed my life. The interview was published 3 months later and went viral. Isabella received thousands of messages from women around the world. Many told her that her story had given them the strength to leave toxic relationships. Others told her they had decided to give love a chance after years of shutting themselves off. One of the letters left a special mark on her. It was from a 50-year-old woman who had been abandoned by her husband after 25 years of marriage. "Dear Isabella, I read your story and cried for hours. For 3 years, I thought my life was over, that it was too late to start over. But you proved that it's never too late to be valued as we deserve. Today, I had my first date in 30 years. I don't know if it will turn out well, but for the first time in a long time, I have hope. Thank you for reminding me that I deserve love. Love." Carmen Isabella kept that letter in her desk drawer. Along with the embroidered handkerchief, Daniel had given her that first night and a photo of her father she had found among her mother's papers. That night, while having dinner with the family, Emma asked something that took them by surprise. "Dad, why didn't Mommy marry Uncle Santiago?" Daniel and Isabella exchanged a look. They'd never spoken to Emma about that part of the story. "How do you know about Uncle Santiago?" Isabella asked. "Grandma Clara told me that you were going to marry him before. But then you married Dad." Isabella knelt beside her daughter's chair. "Emma, my love, sometimes people just aren't meant to be together, even if it seems that way at first. I didn't marry Uncle Santiago because I discovered he didn't really love me. And does Dad really love you?" "Yes, my love. Dad loves me just the way I am." Emma thought about it with the seriousness of "And do you love Dad just the way he is?" "Yes, Emma." "All right then," Emma concluded, and continued eating as if she had solved one of the greatest mysteries of the universe. That night, after putting Emma to bed, Isabella told Daniel about the conversation. "Do you think we're going to have to explain the whole story to him someday? When she's older and can understand it?" "Yes, but let's explain it to her as what it is. A story about finding the courage to truly love and be loved." Isabella nodded. He was right. Her story wasn't about the man who had abandoned her, but about the man who had chosen to stay. It wasn't about humiliation, but about regained dignity. It wasn't about fear, but about courage. 7 years after the day that changed her life, Isabella received an unexpected invitation to an art exhibition called Women Who Inspired, where her story had been included alongside those of other women who had overcome public adversity. The exhibition included an installation of symbolic objects from each story. For Isabella, 3 elements were recreated: an embroidered white handkerchief, a wooden ring on black velvet, and a small pot with a miniature cherry tree. The plaque read Isabella Suara Spenet, designer, wife, mother. She showed that true love doesn't rescue. It empowers, that dignity isn't begged for, it's chosen, that second chances aren't sought, they're created. Daniel, Isabella, and Emma went to the opening together. Emma, now 5, looked at the installation with curiosity. "Mommy, are those your treasures?" Isabella smiled. In a way, her daughter was right. Those objects represented the moments when she had chosen to be brave. "Yes, my love, they are my treasures." "And what is your greatest treasure?" Isabella looked at Daniel, who was holding Emma's hand and looking at her with the same tenderness as always. She looked at her daughter, who had grown up knowing she was deeply loved by 2 parents who respected and loved each other. She thought of Clara, who now had the peace of mind she had always deserved. She thought of her job, which filled her with satisfaction, of her house filled with laughter, of the peaceful nights with the man who had waited patiently for her until she was ready to be loved. "My greatest treasure is having learned that I deserve true love. Because when a woman knows she deserves true love, she creates a life filled with true love." Emma didn't fully understand the answer, but she felt its importance. Daniel did, and he gently squeezed Isabella's hand. That night, at home, after putting Emma to bed, Isabella and Daniel sat, as usual, under their cherry tree, which had now grown tall enough to provide generous shade. "You know what I like most about our story?" Isabella said. That didn't end when we got married. That continues to be written every day." Daniel smiled and kissed her softly. "And it will continue to be written for many more years." Isabella closed her eyes and let herself be hugged. The wind stirred the cherry leaves. Emma slept peacefully in her room. Clara was safe in her home. And she was exactly where she belonged, in the arms of the man who loved her, not in spite of her history, but because of her entire history. And so, after everything she'd been through, she understood that true love doesn't always come when we're looking for it, but it always comes when we're ready to receive it. And when true love comes, it doesn't come to complete us, but to celebrate how complete we already are. If this story touched you, tell me in the comments, what country are you listening from? What part of this story moved you the most? Do you believe we all deserve a second chance at love? Like, if you think true love doesn't rescue, but empowers, share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that there is always hope, that it's never too late to start over, that we deserve to be loved exactly as we are. And subscribe for more stories that touch your soul and remind you that sometimes the best things in life come after the worst. If you made it to the end of this story of love, redemption, and second chances, leave the word reborn in the comments. I love knowing you've been with me until the end of this emotional journey. Until the next story, remember, you deserve true love too.